For me, a friend is a man who would never cling to someone else's dream. He freely chooses his reason to live and follows it, never letting anyone force him. If he can trample on the honor of those dreams, he can face anything, body and soul. Although, in a way, I am like that too. To me, a friend is someone I consider an equal.
In case you didn't know, back in 1997, quite a while ago, an animated adaptation of Berserk was released. Kentaro Miura's manga is one of the most iconic, epic, and dark works in manga. With just 25 episodes, the series made a lasting impression on anime fans. Not because of its visual spectacle, but because of the rawness of its story, the complexity of its characters, and the atmosphere of tragedy that surrounds it. Despite budget constraints and censorship, many see it as the best realization of Kentaro's world on screen. Miura. And yes, nobody likes the 2016 computer-generated imagery version. We know the Golden Age movies are at best passable. The rest are garbage and painful to watch. Skip that awful computer-generated imagery series. Just read the manga instead. The story revolves around Guts, a lone mercenary whose strength, violence, and tragic fate make him one of the most macho protagonists. Hairy hair, silver back, intense, edgy, and traumatized from Japanese animation. Next to him is Griffith, the narcissist, who cares more about Guts' sword than anything else. And I'm not talking about the one he uses to kill. The charismatic band of the Hawk Leader and Casca, a conflicted tsundere warrior torn by loyalty and emotions. The story that the anime builds is not a conventional heroic tale, but a journey into ambition, betrayal, and damnation. When I watched it, I was expecting a story about little medieval swords, and I almost ended up in therapy, like everyone else. In this review, I want to explore what makes this particular series from '97 special. We'll start by discussing the author and the original manga, then analyze which part of the work the series adapts, which is important. What are their main differences, and how does this impact the experience? We'll focus on the main themes, characters, audiovisual atmosphere, and the production's legacy. Beyond its abrupt ending and the criticism for what it leaves out, Berserk from '97 is still considered the adaptation that best captures Miura's spirit. A dark, poetic, and brutal tale about what it means to fight against a destiny that seems unbreakable. Kentaro Miura was born in '66, and from a very young age showed exceptional talent for drawing. He attended Nihon University of Art and began publishing early versions of his future masterpiece by age 22. Berserk began serialization in 1989 in Junk Animal magazine and quickly stood out for its graphic and narrative quality. Berserk is considered a cornerstone of dark fantasy manga. In its pages, Miura created a medieval Europe-inspired world full of demonic horrors, bloody battles, and existential dilemmas. What sets Berserk apart from other fantasy manga is its ability to combine extreme violence with reflections on ambition, pain, and survival. The meticulousness with which Miura illustrated each panel was an essential part of his legend. Castles, landscapes, armor, and creatures were drawn with an almost obsessive level of detail. Literally every damn armor or every damn sword, spear, or shield of random soldier number 3547 was drawn in detail. That dedication was one reason the manga progressed slowly over the years. The central story revolves around Ultrapus, a warrior marked by a tragic fate, and Griffith, the charismatic leader who embodies both the beauty and the corruption of power. They're kind of like sharks and dolphins, but with a more realistic perspective. Berserk is more than an adventure. It's a modern tragedy exploring human darkness and inevitable suffering. The 1997 adaptation focused on the most famous and complete arc of the manga, by far the renowned Golden Age, where the relationship between Guts and Griffith reaches its climax. I'm not referring to that climax, though if they'd reached the one you're thinking of, the story might have gone better. But I'm off topic, starting with homosexuality already. The 1997 series was made by Oriental Light and Magic, a studio best known for Pokemon Sim. The studio that animated Pikachu's clone fight also did the Eclipse. That's what I call versatile, right? The anime aired on Nippon Television from October 1997 to April 1998. From the very beginning, it was affected by budget limitations and the television censorship of the time. They had to reduce the violence and sexual content typical of the manga, which is something we can be somewhat thankful for. I think sometimes Miura went a little overboard. However, these restrictions didn't ruin the work's essence. They made the team focus more on atmosphere and psychological conflicts, which I personally appreciate. A key decision was to adapt only the Golden Age, one of the most famous arcs of the manga, which tells the rise and fall of the Band of the Hawk. The choice was the right one. It's the core of the conflict, the story. A narratively complete arc with a powerful ending, even though in the manga it only represents a small fraction of the entire story. The result was a short, intense piece that, while not depicting all of Berserk, captured the main character's central tragedy. And which part of the manga does it adapt exactly? The 1997 anime adapts the Golden Age arc. As I mentioned, the manga covers volumes 3 to 12 plus 1. The story begins with a brief glimpse of Guts as an adult, the Black Swordsman, an introduction that hooks the viewer and foreshadows what we'll see. A big flashback. The plot centers on Guts joining the Band of the Hawk led by Griffith. Their military campaigns elevate them socially, making them essential to the Kingdom of Midland. During this time, Guts, Griffith, and Casca form bonds that become the story's emotional core. The anime follows the manga's storyline up to the eclipse. A key moment in the story is when Griffith sacrifices his companions to become Femto, a nearly godlike demon. The series ends abruptly in the middle of this massacre, leaving the viewer without showing what happens next to Guts and Casca. In this way, although the adaptation covers an unexplored part, much of Guts' later journey as the Black Swordsman and his more, let's say, resentful or edgy phase with life is left out. The most notable differences we can see with the manga can be, to begin with, the level of graphic violence. In the manga, Miura vividly depicts mutilation, rape, and grotesque creatures. The anime softens these elements for television using suggestion instead of explicit imagery. Imagine adapting the manga into a series like this and airing it for unsupervised children. Childhood ruined. I assume this series wouldn't air during children's hours, though I'm not sure how anime broadcasting works in Japan. Another difference is the character's psychological depth. For example, in the manga we learn more about Guts' childhood, his birth among corpses, his upbringing as a child soldier, and the abuse he suffered from many people. Above all, you already know who. These events explain his tough character, but the anime barely hints at it. The series shows Griffith's charisma and ambition, but omits the manga's nuances that add ambiguity. His relationship with Guts is more intense in the books than in the show. The anime cuts supporting characters in full episodes, such as the full-form Zod the Immortal encounter and God Hand details. These omissions mean anime-only viewers miss much of the saga's supernatural background. The anime's ending is also one of its most controversial differences. It ends during the eclipse, not showing what happens next to Guts and Casca, leaving the story at a traumatic, open climax. One of the main narrative themes of Berserk is destiny versus free will. Guts is a character who battles seemingly predestined forces. His cursed birth, linked to the brand of sacrifice and manipulation by the God Hand, please just let him be happy. However, his strength and stubbornness make him a symbol of resistance against the inevitable. By contrast, Griffith embodies pure ambition. His dream of ruling his own kingdom justifies betraying even his biggest admirers. The 1997 series highlights how Griffith skillfully uses others as chess pieces, making him fascinating. Guts and Griffith's relationship highlights power and sacrifice, with Guts seeking meaning beyond war and Griffith ready to sacrifice anyone for his dream. This contrast is what leads to the inevitable clash between them. Another central theme is friendship and love in the midst of violence. The Band of the Hawk's camaraderie proves that real bonds can form even in a harsh world. Guts and Casca's relationship provides a human respite, reminding us that not everything is dark. Ultimately, Berserk addresses the corruption of power and the fragility of the human condition. The eclipse is both a supernatural event and a metaphor for the cost of unrestrained dreams. Regarding key characters, Guts is the core of the story. The protagonist, a mercenary raised in violence since childhood, who learned that the world is hostile. His great strength and sword skills made him a feared warrior. What makes him memorable is his ongoing struggle against a fate determined to break him. Though Guts looks like a classic villain, tall, muscular, with a huge sword, fierce temper, and harsh features, he possesses deep humanity, seeking friendship, love, and meaning. In the anime, we see how he goes from being a loner to finding a place in the Band of the Hawk, only to lose everything. During the eclipse, Griffith contrasts Guts completely. He's charismatic, handsome, refined, seemingly innocent, open with his feelings, and clear about his dream to rule a kingdom. He inspires everyone as a leader, but hides a willingness to sacrifice anything for his ambition. The anime shows his complexity. He can be kind to Guts, but also cruel when someone threatens his dream. And also quite possessive and selfish. He's really touchy. His fall or rise and transformation into femto are the story's most shocking moments. Casca, the sole woman in the band of the Hawk's elite, is strong and determined, bearing the burden of being a warrior in a world where women lack respect. Her relationship with Griffith is one of devotion, but little by little she develops a deeper and more genuine bond with Guts. This creates one of the most intense emotional triangles in the series. During the eclipse, her fate is one of the most. In short, the Band of the Hawk, Judeo Pimpin, and Rickert Couscous represent the camaraderie and sense of family that Guts never had. Although they don't have much development, their presence reinforces the sense of total loss during the eclipse. They're not just soldiers, but friends who believed in Griffith until the end. Altogether, the characters in Berserk show that it's not a story of simple heroes and villains, but of human beings driven by dreams, desires, tragedies, and ambitions. The animation in Berserk 97 isn't especially notable for its fluidity. With a limited budget, many scenes use static shots, shadows, and a slow pace. Rather than being a flaw, this style enhances the series' dark, oppressive atmosphere. The darkness, the implied blood, and the silences are just as important as the most memorable aspect of the visuals. The music by Tsurumu Hirasawa. Themes like Forces or Beijalith became iconic. Hirasawa uses synthesizers, unique choirs, and otherworldly melodies for an unusual sound. The music doesn't try to accompany the action scenes with epicness, but rather to create an atmosphere of mysticism, fatality, and even discomfort. The opening Tell Me Why by Pen Pulse is a great track that contrasts with the darkness of the series. Conversely, the ending. Waiting so long captures the melancholy and emptiness each episode leaves behind. Although visually simple, the anime has a unique atmosphere. Thanks to its artistic direction and its soundtrack, which became an inseparable part of the identity of this adaptation. The 1997 adaptation was well received, but it sparked mixed opinions from the start due to its abrupt ending and some censored scenes. For many viewers, it was the first gateway into the world of Berserk, which made it a cult classic. The 1997 version remains the favorite. Unlike later adaptations like the 2012 movies or 2016 computer-generated imagery series, even though the 2012 movies are somewhat decent. And no, it's not nostalgia, it's just that the computer-generated imagery series, well, it's a horror. The 1997 one is fondly remembered. Despite its limitations, it captured the character's essence and conveyed the story's tragic weight. It's not a big deal, but it's the best we have of Berserk. Over 25 years later, it's still the most respected adaptation, proving a modest production can become legendary by focusing on what's essential. This anime is imperfect, incomplete, limited by its animation, and raises more questions than it answers. But it's that imperfection that makes it unforgettable. Plus, I think it's one of the best entry points for Purser. I mean, this anime should serve more as a little appetizer to get you into the manga rather than as an anime on its own. It almost always becomes necessary to check the manga for answers. Its strength lies in its characters, in the intensity of its themes, and in the music that surrounds every scene. This work doesn't soften life's harshness, but reveals all its pain. Maybe that's why it's still so memorable, because beyond fantasy and the supernatural, it speaks about what it means to be human, about ambition, betrayal, and resistance in the face of a challenge. Although Miura is gone, his work and this adaptation live on in the memories of those who face the abyss with guts.